Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemietteINSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. And this afternoon, of course, we'll talk a lot about what's going on with the Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all the home teams as we always do. And to break it down, one of our favorite guests, he does it all for Fox 8 Sports, Sean Fazende joins us on the program this evening. Sean, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great. I was going to say maybe a little time off because you're not doing a show every single night, but things do slow down a little bit for you here, right? Just a little bit.
It's a different kind of busy is what I tell people. It's a lot more research, a lot more kind of planning as far as what could be coming up ahead, looking ahead, planning the off season. But you're right, we don't have to grind through 6 shows a week this time of year. It's just overtime, which is now on Tuesdays. It's going to shift to Thursday in a couple of weeks. And obviously our Final Play show at 10:30 every Sunday night.
Great shows, by the way. Let's jump into the Saints right quick and talk a little bit about we'll talk about Breeze, and then we'll kind of get into what's going on in the off season, and then but before we do that, just to look back and your thoughts on this season, ending like it did, winning the division 4 straight years, 49-15 over the last 4 years. Talk a little bit about especially how this ended up this year with again the Saints. A bridesmaid once again.
You've sold Super Bowl or bust for the last 3 years. You can make a case 2018 was your year and you got robbed, but the last 2 years you've busted. So do I call it a success? From the outside looking in, if you weren't in the trenches with this team, you'd say absolutely it was a success. But they had aspirations to get further than this. And this is a team that obviously went to the NFC Championship game in 2018, but 19 they didn't get out the wild card round, and in 20 obviously they didn't get out of the divisional round. So as great as the regular season was, as fun as it looked like they were having, we saw that last year as well. At the end of the day, at the end of the season, as we sit here, once again the offseason is here short of the ultimate prize, and this team has been good enough, top to bottom, to win one, and you haven't gotten one. So I do think there's a bit of a level of disappointment with the idea that 12 and 4, if you look at the historical context of this organization, is obviously a great season.
Yes.
But you can't sell all year Super Bowl or bust, and when you come up short, say, oh well, we had a good year anyway. Nah, there's disappointment.
No, there has to be. And again, you cannot continue to dominate the regular season, but when it comes to the postseason, coming up empty.
You can't.
And that's been the issue here. I mean, again, look, it's a far cry from the days of Archie Manning, okay, or even again, under Jim Mora, but still, you look at where they are right now, you expect them to be able to go further than what they've done with the team that they've had. And this might have been one of the more talented teams they've had under the Peyton era.
From 18 to 19 to 20, each year got better and better and better to where I feel like in each year, I felt like, wow, this is as good a team as I've seen. This is as good of a team as I've seen. And these are not unrealistic expectations.
Right,
these are expectations you set for yourself. We've set. We expect, when I say we, fans, media, people that observe this team, the team expects it, the head coach expects it. And when you fall short, you've got to own that. Yeah. And they're owning it now. They're into the off-season development phase, I guess planning phase, and whatever the case may be, how they want to do this unique off-season. But nonetheless, you fell short. And I think you'd probably feel a little different if maybe they've gotten back to another one. Even if you didn't win another one, you've gotten back to another one, maybe you feel a little different.
Yeah, you would.
But you haven't even gotten back to another one.
Right.
And like I said, you've had a top-tier elite football team, top to bottom. Think of all the injuries, and you still never missed a beat. For the last 4 years, it didn't happen.
All right, let's talk about Breeze, and then I want to talk about legacy. You have the opinion that this is it, Breeze is going to retire. I know there are some out there that think that maybe he's mowing it over. I don't. I think it's done. It's over. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's over. I think it's done. I think you cannot realistically look at Breeze the last window of the season that you saw and think he's the same player. You cannot look at Breeze given the injuries he's had. You can't separate injury from age now. It's not like you can say, oh, if he was healthy, he'd have a great year. Look how he played. No. That's part of the package when you're that age.
Right.
You cannot separate age from injury. And I think there's a realization in number 9's mind that he doesn't have it anymore.
Right.
He doesn't have what he used to, and he has always said he does not want to be the type of player where it's obvious. You got to, show him the exit door. He doesn't want to go out like that. So perhaps that's as close as it's going to get to that, what we saw at the end of this past season. But I think it's done. I think the organization probably needs to turn the page on that, despite how successful they've been with him.
Yes.
But in saying that, that doesn't guarantee, just because one guy leaves, it doesn't guarantee you stability to the next guy. And that's what I keep telling people right now is, you've had stability, and it's, I don't want to say it's a false sense of security, but it's a sense of security that I think you might be taken for granted a little bit.
Yes.
And the next quarterback there's no guarantee you're going to get that security both with the fan base and most importantly with the head coach, who is that's a coach kill if you don't have stability at the quarterback position.
That's right.
He's had it for 15 years. So he's never even had to come close to benching Breeze at any point throughout his 15 years. The next quarterback, that could very reasonably happen.
And again, that tells you how successful they've been.
Yeah.
And a lot of that. And look, I'm not saying that it's just Breeze. It was Breeze, Peyton. It was a collaboration. Again, a building team. There's a lot of things that went into it. But again, you've had stability at the most important position on the field for 15 years. All right, legacy. At the end of the day, when you look back on the Peyton Breeze era, what story will be told?
Look, I think it would be a little harsh to say he should have more, even though we all think he should have more. He brought the unimaginable to New Orleans. He's the greatest to ever put black and gold on.
Agreed.
He's the best to ever do it. I was thinking about this. Is there a player in NFL history that has maximized his natural skill set more from where he started to where he finished? I mean, he's not supposed to rewrite the record books. That guy is 6 foot, 200 pounds. That doesn't have a great arm, doesn't have great speed, doesn't have great mobility, and yet he did. Doesn't have great size. But legacy NFL-wise, he's going to be one of the game's greats. Maybe not on the Mount Rushmore of the game's greats, but he's going to be up there. But in this city, in that building,
right.
I'm on the Saints Hall of Fame committee. Maybe we'll have a motion to say maybe when he retires, maybe we'll bypass the rules for the GOAT. Who knows?
Right.
But nonetheless, he's the greatest of all time to ever wear black and gold. But in saying that, he probably should have one more ring.
All right, I was going to say legacy of the organization. Underachieving, considering you've had a first ballot Hall of Famer, the records, as good of teams that you've had at times where again you could have or should have been in a Super Bowl and won it. Is it a legacy of underachievement at the end of the day because you only got one?
Are the Packers underachievers? That's what I want to know because they've got what is Aaron Rodgers 1-4?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to call Breeze, you got to call Rodgers underachiever.
I think that's fair.
It's a great debate. Underachieve is such a negative word.
No, it is.
Because I think Breeze has overachieved his natural skill set. I just went to more than perhaps anyone.
But the expectations were.
Yeah. That's a great question. It's a great debate. is there somewhere in between underachiever and the fact that the realization that you should have more? Is there somewhere in the middle there? Is there a middle road? I don't know. Yes, I do feel disappointment that they don't have another ring, which they should.
At least one more.
And that second ring as a quarterback on the national stage catapults you to that next tier.
No doubt.
So he's going to be stuck into that next that lower tier there. But as an organization, I don't see how you can look at this time and say underachieved when you look at the context of this entire organization, which was frankly a joke before he had gotten here.
There's no doubt about it. And again, maybe it is a little bit of being spoiled.
Yes.
Okay. And this fan base has been spoiled. I mean, look, everybody talks about it now. There's a generation of kids that grew up.
They don't understand.
They have no clue. Okay, what you and what your dad and myself grew up with, what you grew up with. Yeah. Okay, when you grew up and became a Saints fan, it's totally different, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have been a consistent winner and have the expectations of winning a championship each and every year. We'll get into that a little bit later to see if that expectation stays. All right, let's talk about Tampa for a moment. And there's been a debate about whether Brees should have played at all, especially after Brittany Brees comes out and says that he has a torn rotator cuff. We know about the 11 broken ribs. We know about the punctured lung. We didn't know about the torn fascia. If you go back and you look at the film, like I did, went back and looked at the game, and you try to break it down play by play, I know you do as well, he was not able to make all the throws. A lot of us thought that might have been the byproduct of just the ribs, right? He didn't have the ability, if he rolled out, to really put anything on the ball. Well, some are questioning whether, again, he should have played. Should he have played? Was a healthy Jameis Winston a better option than Brees with all the knowledge that he has of this system and the GOAT, the face of the franchise, playing in maybe his last playoff game?
Absolutely not. I don't like that debate at all. No way. Brees should have played with all the knowledge and they had been game planning to victory with Brees's more efficient, less explosive skill set all year.
True.
And take away that Jared Cook fumble. Let's see what happens.
Right.
Now I know he had 3 interceptions in the second half after that, or 2, or whatever it was after that. I know he ended up with 3 before turnovers total. Take away that Jared Cook fumble, watch what happens. And what happened the week before? You didn't necessarily, at this point, need Brees to be perfect. You just needed him to be efficient. Now, he wasn't as efficient because at some point in the game it felt like he was just taking too many chances, and he's not at the point in his career to do that. But Brees is an efficient player. Them running the football, Brees' knowledge getting in and out of plays, as opposed to Jameis Winston's first career start.
Right. At a playoff
against his former team where it could get a little crazy. I know he'd be motivated, but you never know. Sometimes that motivation can get overboard. No, let's end that because I don't believe that one bit.
See, to me, the big handicap they had on that day was they lost Hill and Latavius Murray. They lost their power running game. They didn't have their power running game to maybe offset what they were doing. And I think that if they would have had the power running game, we might have saw this thing unfold a little differently.
I agree. And, when those two guys were both out at the same time, that really was. I've been talking to Deuce about that before the game, and he said that's really something to monitor. Now, if you have one, you can at least one available, but to have both out at this stage, at this time, when it's become such a part of your offense, you had become a running team at that point, and you had the 3-headed monster. That was a huge impact. And I went back and looked. Last 6 or 7 playoff games, the Saints have scored in the low 20s in each game. Sometimes that's enough to win. Sometimes, but most of the times you're gonna lose with that. But so it goes to show you that offensively, haven't quite broken through over this last stretch in the playoffs, scoring points. If you add a power running game to that element, maybe you control the line of scrimmage a little bit better. Maybe not. I mean, if you capitalize on some early opportunities, maybe it's a different story. But bottom line, offensively, they have not been as consistent in the postseason.
Especially when you got a Tampa defense that knows you, that has a Devin White that, again, was watching every move Kamara made on that field. Okay? It limited you in terms of, again, misdirection. But more importantly, again, allowing that offensive line to get a little physical and to get physical and to start to run the ball physical. And that, again, I found that offensive line was at its best when you got the physical running game going.
And you can feel it when they take over. I mean, you can really feel it when they take over.
That's no doubt.
And you just feel like you're just going to just wear this team out to victory. couldn't necessarily get that going in that game. And then, like I said, but we talk about all that, but you take away that Jared Cook fumble. Saints are winning, and I go back to this. This is a veteran team with a ton of experience that have played together, shared experiences, whatever phrase you want to use. They're up by 7. One fumble, and it's like, whew, they exhaled. The body language was completely different, and everybody in that stadium knew they were going to lose that game. What happened? Yeah, that's a rookie mistake. That's a team in the playoffs for the first time mistake.
Yes.
That's not Super Bowl contender mistake. That's not Super Bowl contender body language.
Great point.
So I that's the image I have of that game is that fumble and the just, for lack of a better term, defeated mindset and defeated body language the rest of the game. You just knew that you were going to lose that game, and that's really unfortunate for all they have accomplished this year.
Let's look forward. This is going to be an interesting offseason. Okay, I think we both agree that Drew Brees is going to retire. There is a plan, and this is what I've been talking about now for the last few weeks. There is no way that Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton are going back to 7 and 9. Okay, I mean, anybody? The national correspondents want to make this again. They got to blow the team up. That again, they're going to lose these veterans. That there's all this young talent that they've built up. You know, again, stop. It's not going to happen. Okay, to me, they've waited for this day for a long time. They knew what was going to happen. They're gonna have Brees as a post June 1st retirement. They're going to amortize that $21 million in dead money over 2 years, and they're going to go in and they're going to renegotiate contracts because this has been set up for them to be able to do this when they originally negotiated these contracts, and they're going to open up cap room, and they're going to be able to sign their own. Are they going to be able to sign everybody? No. But they're going to be able to sign the majority of the players that are out there to long-term deals that they want to be able to hold on to. Are there going to be some cap casualties? There always is every year. But I think there is a plan in place with Loomis to be able to move forward no matter what the cap is. Now, again, look, we were discussing this before the show. Now the NFL, there's this word out between the NFL and the Players Union that they feel like that the TV contracts are going to go up significantly. They're going to a 17th game next year. That the big cap hit they're talking about this year because of COVID-19 losses, they may make that more of a moderate loss this year. It may be a stagnant cap. Maybe it won't be lose as much as originally thought might happen. That helps the Saints. But I think either way, Loomis was preparing for this. Your thoughts?
Well, Loomis was preparing for this, but he did say something interesting in his press conference yesterday, which he never says. He said it's going to be daunting. He used that word. I don't think I've ever heard him use that word before, but he said it's going to be the same for all teams. So I don't know if he was speaking in the context of the NFL challenge or the Saints challenge up ahead. But nonetheless, I hear people radio and TV and everything talking about, man, the thing that stood out to me was Mickey Loomis saying, they still want to compete for championships. Well, duh. Why is that such a surprise to you people? I mean, this is like, you honestly think, even if they were rebuilding, that they would come out and say, right after a 12-4 season, right after a loss, you're going to blow things up and just rebuild. This isn't the NBA. You don't do that in the NFL. This is not the NBA. Now, it's going to be challenging to get back to where you were, but they do have some talent on that roster. But it just made me chuckle a little bit. Of course they're saying that. Of course, no NFL team ever says, we don't think we're going to make the playoffs this year. We're just going to build for the future. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the NFL.
But here, they got enough talent, and they have the people in the front office that I believe they didn't bring all this talent on for the Drew Brees era and then fall off a cliff. Okay? And look, nobody likes losing. If you remember, that wasn't fun times 7-9 with Sean Payton.
No.
Okay, not at all. You were in that locker room. You saw it, okay? But they're not going back to that, all right? He's not leaving his legacy of when Brees goes, everything, house of cards collapse. I think, again, now they got to figure out the quarterback situation. We'll get into that in a moment. But I think they're going to retain the majority of the players that they choose to retain.
That's just it. Choice now, because I've been asked about two frequently, and I'm on the line with both Marcus Williams and Trey Hendrickson.
We would get to go ahead.
If you want to go there now, we'll go there now. Okay. Marcus Williams is a guy, I think, he has some skills as a ball hawking safety. He's had his troubles and his misfortune. He's a guy, depending on what he would cost, I think the Saints would like back, but I think they would feel a safety is easier to replace than a pass rusher. So Marcus Williams, possibly he's back, depending on his price. Gauging his marks is going to be interesting because if he wants to be a top-tier safety paid, I don't know that he's got that reputation. Now, he's got some moments, but you just never know how that goes on the open market. Trey Hendrickson I've swung on because I thought he was dead on arrival, gone, done when the season ended. But the more I think about it, and the way the Saints have manipulated cap numbers in the past, I think you got to at least be competitive for that guy because you can't find they don't grow on trees.
True.
He just had 13.5 sack season. You've groomed him. You still got Nielsen there. And he's a guy that I think you need to at least be competitive when you can because all of a sudden the strength of your team could become a weakness if Hendrickson walks, Rankins walks, you cut Malcolm Brown, Davenport hasn't developed. Oh, by the way, Cam Jordan is showing signs of age. Did you just all those names I just rattled off? That's the defensive line right there. You still got Onyemata, but I mean, he's great, but it's just one guy. So my point is, I think you got to fight for that guy, and I think there's a way because you can do these contracts where the first-year hit is very minimal.
That's right.
It's very minimal.
Because
so
you know the cap's going to increase over the next few years with the TV contract.
And the Saints, God bless them, and how the NFL has not stepped in, I don't know. They have used this voidable year loophole better than anybody I've seen in the NFL. I mean, they just had 4 or 5 voidable years onto a contract and it lowers cap numbers. So all that's, I think that those guys, I think they're going to be competitive with those guys. They're going to shed some players, both for cost, but also for age and production as well.
True.
So what I don't think you'll see, now look at Sean Payton, sometimes he falls in love with guys and he's going to get aggressive. There's always this thing, but I don't think you're going to see a huge spending spree from guys outside the organization.
I agree.
I think it's going to be much more their own house.
Right.
That's
But that's what you should do. You've groomed these players. A lot of these players going into their second contract. Okay. Why would you allow those players to go elsewhere and to be able to take a flyer on somebody else's a player that's going into a second contract? You want to hold on to your own.
But here's the thing. They say that. They believe that. But what happens is when free agency starts and things start, and all these players become available, the guy that runs that building over there, Sean Payton, gets excited. And all of a sudden, players, Jadeveon Clowney was the perfect example. All of a sudden, we got to get this guy. We got to get this guy. And all of a sudden, all bets are off. So sometimes you got to temper his enthusiasm.
And again, imagine if you would have went out and got Clowney and having Trey Hendrickson.
And Henderson would not have developed.
That's right.
I'd say they learned their lesson in that regard, but the truth is, when free agency starts and other teams start making moves, Sean Payton cannot sit still. That's just the way it is.
All right. The big thing is going to be the quarterback position going forward. That's the linchpin here. All right. Let's first of all talk about what's in the building. I've talked about this on the radio show this week. If you go back and you look at Jameis Winston's highlights, he can do it all. He's got all the measures. He's got the size. He's got arm. He's got accuracy. He's got everything you want in a quarterback. But like we know, there's a good Jameis and a bad Jameis. The good Jameis, he's going to win games for you. The bad Jameis, he's going to keep the other team in games and he's going to lose games for you. He's had a chance to get almost a football sabbatical here. He's had a year under Breeze and Payton. He's had the chance to learn this system a little deep into the playbook with no pressure. He's had a chance to be able to learn how Breeze gets himself ready for the season, ready for the game. So he's had an opportunity to really learn at I call it the Oxford University of Offensive Football. With that said, he's had all this without getting no pressure to perform this year. On the other hand, you got Taysom Hill, who's come in. He's 3-1 as a starter. He's gotten better each and every year under Breeze and Payton. Payton seems to have an affinity for him on again, his skill set going forward. Do you look in-house and go with the guys that are here, okay, knowing that you have to retain the players that are in-house on other positions, or are you in the Matt Stafford sweepstakes? Are you in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes? Or as we were talking about before the show, maybe a quarterback that again is at a team, is with a team now that ultimately, because of drafting another quarterback, they become expendable, like a Sam Darnold. Where do you think they go? Do you stay in-house and maybe again go on the cheap for a couple of years, retaining your players and let that be a bridge quarterback, or maybe you have something in a Hill or a Jameis Winston, or do you again go outside the organization and bring a quarterback in?
All right, well, let's set the stage like this. In my opinion, all right, what is a franchise quarterback worth? To me, it's 4 wins. 4 wins. We've seen examples. Look at the Colts this year, from Jacoby to Phillip Rivers.
Sure.
I think they were 7-9, 8-8. They went to 11-5, went to the playoffs. And obviously, the main example is the Buccaneers. They were 7-9, 6-10, whatever they were last year. Now they're in, obviously, the Super Bowl. So, do the Saints have a playoff team? Yeah. But if they don't have a franchise elite quarterback, you can take that 12-4 team, maybe make them an 8-8 team if you don't have the right guy. So that's just my thinking. Okay. Is Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, or Jameis Winston, either one, are they capable of that? We have not seen them. We saw, obviously, Taysom Hill's skill set. We have not seen Jameis Winston much in the Saints uniform, short of a few plays here and there. I guess you have to trust the coaches on that. But I just am of the opinion that the Saints would be doing themselves a disservice if they just turned a blind eye to what else could possibly be out there. Matt Stafford, everyone seems to be in this town seems to be in love with. I think that's going to be probably a little too high, especially if half the league is interested in the services. We saw the information, obviously, with Deshaun Watson. I think that's going to be more expensive. So let's just say I don't think about Deshaun Watson. Maybe there's a slim chance with the Matt Stafford. If a guy like Sam Darnold becomes available, I can see that being something that the Saints could certainly look into, because I can recall Sean Payton talking highly of Sam Darnold leading up to the 2018 draft. Point being, you got to get that position right, because if you get it right, you are still a playoff team. If you get it wrong, guess what? 7-9, 8-8 again, regardless of what you have around.
There's no doubt.
You need an efficient quarterback, elite play.
The question is that guy in the building now?
That's the great question. Now, Taysom Hill has shown some things. I go back to this. I know Sean Payton had the deal made with Taysom. If it were to ever happen, he would get the first opportunity. However, if it was obvious that Taysom could not win him games, Sean Payton, would he have played him if it was that obvious? That's where I'm at with, because I think
he plays him early, but I think he goes away from him if he doesn't perform.
See, because
the promise was made.
If promise is made, but if it's clear and obvious that Jameis is better than Taysom in that window, then what should he do?
I think all bets are off now.
The deal is made.
Right.
My point to you
the deal was for this year.
My point to you is, I think there was a part of Sean Payton that it wasn't just the deal he made. It was, I think Taysom can help me win games right now better than Jameis Winston. That might not be the case now, but at that point. So that's my point with that whole thing. Jameis Winston, top-end talent, we know. I mean, just all over the place, though, his tape. I mean, some of the best plays you've ever seen, some of the worst plays you've ever seen.
Good Jameis, bad Jameis.
And I said it on your radio show yesterday, just look at the snapshot of the small window that he gave us. Beautiful play. Playoffs. Perfect play, trick play. Von's a wide open Traquan Smith, shows the arm strength. A couple weeks before that, against San Francisco, he gets in the game when when Breeze goes down. What happens? A couple nice throws, nearly gets picked off on a terrible decision. Then, in the season finale against Carolina, what happens? Call for a personal foul penalty on just kind of a goofy play. That is Jameis Winston in a nutshell right there. Has he learned? Has he grown? I don't know, because what he showed in that small window was exactly what we saw in Tampa Bay. Great plays, bad plays, and a little bit of kind of just goofy just play, things that can lead to your trouble for your team. So he's got to outgrow that. So the long answer to your question is, I think the two guys in the building have a legitimate shot. I do think the Saints should look at a third option, whether that be free agency or even the draft. I don't understand why people aren't talking about the draft more. And let whoever is there earn it through a genuine competition. Let's not anoint anyone, because to me, they're not in a position to anoint anyone. All
right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Michael Thomas. We'll continue the Saints talk. Then we'll get into some LSU, Pelicans, and Tulane. You can hear from our underwriters. My name is Eric Asher. I'm your host. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. Quick turnaround. We'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning and Refrigeration has been family owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. We'll get to LSU, Tulane, Pelicans in a few more minutes. We'll stay with the Saints in this next block. All right. Matt Stafford, half the league is inquired. Deshaun Watson, we know half the league's going to inquire there. The good thing is this year, when you look at it on paper, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be available. Free agency, teams moving on, okay, to maybe somebody younger, a different quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of more choices out there this year than maybe we saw last year. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers may be out there on the market, even though Green Bay has said that's not happening. Your thought? I mean,
that's what I keep saying.
Do you go with the guys in-house, or do you have to bring? Is there a third guy you bring in
Absolutely.
no matter what?
I think you have to.
I agree.
I think you're doing your organization a disservice. Give yourself as many options as possible. If you sign a guy that doesn't work out, so be it. Somebody else beats him, so be it. Taysom beats him, or if Jameis beats him, or whoever his third player is, if they win the competition, so be it. So be it. But you cannot you've got to get that position right. I explained to you earlier what I feel like a franchise quarterback or a elite quarterback play is worth. So absolutely. And when Sean Payton was making all those proclamations about he's already in the building, did he know this many guys are going to be available?
No. There's no way, because nobody knew this.
I'm not a big Jared Goff guy, but he may be available. Right. Matt Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold. I mean, there's a ton of guys that are going to be available.
Exactly.
So, and Sean Payton is not the type to sit back and watch everything just kind of go by. Like, he's just not that type.
Yep.
So,
and he probably has an affinity with some of those quarterbacks that are out there.
Yeah.
He's gotten tape on them from they were in college. Yeah. He's watched them. He's thinking, if I get this guy in my building, I can do this. Okay?
Yeah,
kind of what we thought with Jameis. Let me get Jameis in this building. I've seen him at Tampa for 4 years. I can do this with him. We'll be interested to see what goes there. But can you break in a year where you're trying to retain all your talent in a COVID-19 affected cap, where again you're going to have dead money? Do you go out and spend a lot of money on a quarterback if you're not sure it's a franchise quarterback? In the building right now, you're paying Taysom $13 million. You got Winston on a $1 million deal. He's probably going to get a little bit more with incentives.
Yeah, and look, I think I don't want to contradict myself.
No.
But if you go and sign a big name guy to a big name contract, he would probably be your guy, which probably would mean Jameis Winston would at that point be gone. But let's just say it's another Jameis type situation, like a Sam Darnold 1 year prove it type deal.
A bridge guy, or maybe a guy to prove it to me.
That's what it would have to be. I don't think you can afford going and get a guy for 6 years, $150 million
That's what I'm saying.
contract.
So,
that's why I still think the draft is a legitimate possibility, given where you pick, what you have possibly draft picks to move up, and they've always used that future draft pick to go up. So I still think that's a possibility that no one's talking about yet, but just something to keep in mind as they go forward, in this process. But the bottom line is, I get asked all the time who the next quarterback's going to be, and I honestly tell them I don't know. I have no lean on it whatsoever. I think if a lot of people are starting to discount Taysom a little bit, I think maybe with a fresh, set of circumstances, maybe that's a little bit different. But nonetheless, I think it all has to be in the consideration.
Well, the thing with Taysom is it takes away from a weapon. Okay, a guy that can do so many things, but at the same time, if you got a quarterback that's mobile, that can make plays, we'll see it. We'll see how it kind of plays out. You guys know I'm not on the Taysom train. he's going to have to show a lot more to prove to me that he's a bona fide starter in the NFL. All right, free agency starts March 15th with the legal tampering period. March 17th, free agent starts. You mentioned the Saints in the draft. Round 1, 28th overall. They have a second round pick. They have 2 third-round picks, but both of them are compensatory picks, so you might as well say those are high fourth-round picks. One for Teddy Bridgewater, one for Terry Fontenot going to Atlanta to become the general manager. They have their own fourth-round pick. And right now, it looks like the fifth-round pick goes to San Francisco for Quan Alexander, unless something changes there because of playing time. The 6th round pick was again the debacle with Tommy Stevens last year, who ends up with Carolina anyway. The 7th round pick is kind of mind-blowing with the NFL taking that pick away from them because of COVID-19. And they were supposed to get an additional 6th round pick compensatory for the loss of A.J. Klein, but the NFL took that away from them because they tried to circumvent the waiting period with Jameis Winston. So literally you have a 1, a 2.
That's not terrible. 1, 2, 2 3s, and a 4. So that's 5 picks in the first 4 rounds.
That's it.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not bad to get, because that's essentially how the 2017 class came about.
That's right.
They had picks early.
Right. Well, they had didn't they have 2 first-round picks that year?
They had two first rounds, a second, and they made some maneuvers.
And that's
in the third
before
round.
they make any trades, because there could be some trades that they made to move on some players.
There's always a trade up.
Okay.
So yeah.
Draft. Talk about it. I mean, again.
I think they need a good class. I think they need a good class because there's some aging guys on this team. There's some guys that I didn't realize how many guys you counted on just off the top of my head. Malcolm Jenkins, Janoris Jenkins, Cam Jordan, Jared Cook, obviously Drew Brees, 1 or 2 Demario Davis. These are guys that are well into their 30s now. So you gotta get younger here. Right. And the best way to do that is to get some young quality football players on those rookie contracts. That's how this whole run started. Now, what no one is talking about, and it's something to really watch, is I asked Mickey Loomis about this yesterday, right before he ended the Zoom conference. I said, is Terry Fontenot taking any scouts with him to Atlanta? Because if Terry's going to reorganize that front office, he's going to have a director of player personnel, director of college personnel, and he's probably there's probably a couple scouts in the building that may want some promotions that could be moved. That was a great question,
by the way.
He said, currently, he is not. Currently. If that happens and the Saints lose a few scouts to promotions and maybe even just scouts just to get to another team, that could be an issue because those are scouts that have learned under Terry, they have learned under Jeff, and they have learned this new tool of identifying players and developing players. That's something to really watch with this draft. And we won't know the answer to that as far as the impact until a few years down the road. But nonetheless, that's something to watch just from an infrastructure standpoint that no one's going to even see.
I'd be interested to see if they can do that until maybe after the draft. Now, may not affect this draft, may affect next year's draft.
Could be, yeah. I don't know the exact rules of that.
Because they'd be under contract. You mentioned it. Let's go there. Terry Fontenot, again, and I have that on my notes, has not taken any scouts away. Did try to lure Kai Harley, though. Okay,
according to Jeff, yeah.
Okay, according to Jeff Duncan. That was squashed. Dan Campbell moves on to Detroit. He takes Aaron Glenn with him as defensive coordinator. Joe Lombardi, offensive coordinator with the Chargers. Is he going to reach in and take staff at this point? So you got to, again, I still think it's fluid here in terms of the staff down the line. How big of a losses were these this year?
Yeah, I think what the loss is in the continuity. Everyone was speaking the same language, and it's hard to have a staff together that long. I think Dan was there since 16, if I'm not mistaken.
And that was the second time around.
Same with Aaron Glenn. Lombardi was, it's the second cycle through. It's I think from a continuity standpoint, just relearning and reteaching and just having new blood come in, I think that's where the adjustment comes in. But I do think Peyton is strong enough, has a sharp enough eye in the coaching ranks, and has people he trusts to hire some quality assistants to that staff.
Last question on the Saints. You're a free agent. You're out there, you're looking. In the past, it is, I want to go play with Breeze. I got a chance to win a championship. They're going to get that type of play now? Without having that knowing who that quarterback's going to be, that's still a great team. Is there going to be a situation where a guy says, I want to go play there?
Yeah, I think there'll be a few just because of that culture. And you don't discount the fact that players around the league look at the Saints and say, man, they have a lot of fun playing football. And and I've been there when it wasn't fun.
Right.
So don't discount that. It may not be as high. It may impact certain positions. It may not. And obviously, money talks. We know that. So I think some will, maybe not as in abundance as previous years, but as we just mentioned, I don't think this is going to be a year where you get a lot of outside free agents to come in. It's probably be a lot of those Michael Burton types, where that was a great pickup last year.
Yep.
But those type of signings going forward.
All right, let's jump to LSU. Next time you're on, in the next cycle, we'll jump into free agency and with the Saints. But let's go to LSU. Daronte Jones is the former Vikings defensive back, is now the new defensive coordinator at LSU. He signs a 2-year deal worth $1.3 million a year, plus a one-time payment of $150,000. It's a far cry from the $2.3 million that Pelini got. What Ed has done now with his coordinators, with Jake Pease, 37 years old, young, Mangus young, Jones young. Although Jones has got 20 years of coaching experience. Okay, they've gotten younger. I thought they would get younger. I thought they had more African Americans on the staff. They still have to get a linebacker coach and a defensive line coach. I would not be surprised if both those coaches are younger and African American. Your thoughts on what he has done in this offseason with his coordinator positions and the changes within the coaching staff?
Well, obviously they had to get done, and I know a lot's going to be made of the merry-go-round that was the defensive coordinator search. But I was told they had Marcus Freeman, who I was told took less money to go to Notre Dame. It was more of a family thing, being from the Midwest, that sort of thing, as opposed to anything else. I mean, they had him signed, sealed, and delivered. They thought, and then obviously he left them. So if that worked out, then none of this fiasco is even a problem. We know what happened in the Ryan Nielsen situation. Do
you want to expound on that a bit?
I mean, it's cutthroat. It's a cutthroat business, you know. Who knows what, the inner workings of the contract. I'm not convinced either side knew every single clause in every single contract. I'm sure I have a contract. I couldn't tell you every single clause in it, but and nonetheless, you don't necessarily think of an NFL holding someone away from a college job because it's not direct competition. But nonetheless, they had enough language there to keep him there. He got his raise. Ryan Nielsen. He's not LSU's defensive coordinator. Everybody moves on. I think it's a really good opportunity, though, because you have a lot of talent. You have a team that's been humbled, and hungry.
Yes.
And you cannot. I mean, that looked more like the 2008 defense, where it was just chaos after the national championship season. They cannot be that bad. And look, a great defense in college football looks a lot different today than it looked 20 years ago, because there are no more dominant defenses when you're guarding 85 to 90 plays a game. But I think you're going to be better, and that coordinator, regardless of how great of a schemer and play caller he is going to get credit for that, because it's going to be a massive improvement. So I think it's a great opportunity for someone to succeed. So Daronte Jones, I'll be very honest with you, I had no idea who he was before he got the job, but he's got quite the resume. He's been an assistant for a long time. He's earned the opportunity, and they made a commitment to him. And I wish them the best, because I think it's a place that they can bounce back pretty quickly.
What surprised me a little bit was leaning on ex-coaches. So leaning on a guy like Joe Brady to bring in a Pease and a Mangus, leaning on an Aranda to bring in a Daronte Jones. You would think that Ed, in his years of being an assistant, college and pro, that he would have his feelers out on guys that he felt could make that next step. But again, he leaned on guys that had moved on to greener pastures.
He leaned on the next generation, because when he leans on his own guys, he gets Bo Pelini and Scott Linehan.
That is a great point.
When he has the self-awareness to say, okay, no.
Yeah.
And what was the guy? Jerry Sullivan from years ago.
Yeah, right.
When he has the self-awareness to say, let's
all
go
my
down this
guys
pad.
are my age.
Yes. Let me go down this pad. Let me get Joe Brady's guy.
Right.
It makes perfect sense.
Your age.
The greatest assistant of in LSU history, maybe.
Right.
I mean, what he did in 1 year.
That's a great point. That is a really great point.
So I thought it was a great move, and it was interesting with the Dave Aranda connection, because I always thought there was a little bit of tension between those two. But so to get this guy off the Dave Aranda tree, I don't think they worked together all that long. But so I have told you this before, and I will keep saying it. O is human, but what you gotta respect about him is he does not stay down for long. He gets himself back up. And he seems to take advice from a self-awareness standpoint. Okay, I made a mistake here. Let me go here. I think this team's going to be a 10-win team again. I really do.
So do I.
I think it'll be a 10-win team at lowest.
Right. Let's go to it now. They have a pretty good schedule. We talked about it yesterday on the radio show. They open up at UCLA. They come back home from McNeese. They're back home again, back to back for Central Michigan. Then they go at Mississippi State, Auburn at home, at Kentucky, Florida at home, at Ole Miss, open date, at Alabama, Arkansas, ULM, Texas A&M to finish out the season. That is not a bad schedule.
No, I think, and I hate doing this.
Right.
But I look at it, and I think there's a realistic chance you're 6-0 to start that season. I hate doing that because I did that this year, and I hate doing that. But you look the way that thing shapes out, the only back-to-back road game, they got the bye week in between. I like LSU's quarterback room. There's going to be some turnover and some other, Trask is leaving Florida. Mac Jones is leaving Alabama. Mond is leaving A&M.
Yes.
The Alabama on the road has been better to LSU than at home. Look, it's the SEC. It's going to be different. You drew Kentucky this year, not another SEC East power, like Georgia. So I like it. Again, talent, self-awareness, pride. You got the best recruiting wasn't even the 2021 class. It was those guys coming back.
Yep.
It goes to show you that O did not lose that locker room, which is what there were some bad seeds in that locker room. O did not lose the locker room.
There were some selfish players in that locker room.
There were some very selfish players in that locker room.
Okay, there were more words.
All I heard from Baton Rouge media was O lost the locker room, O lost the locker room. They refused to say there were some bad seeds. There were some bad seeds in that locker room.
And look what happened. I mean, I was surprised. When you have the majority of your team that has a chance to be able to move on.
And they all came back.
COVID-19, you can leave without having any penalty. And almost to a man they said, we're coming back.
The entire offensive line. Now, I know the offensive line was struggled last year, but some of those guys are going to develop. And there's going to be the next tier of guys that can come in. So I think now all of a sudden you at least have depth.
And your defensive line came back.
And your D-line came back. I think there's some, Ali Gay especially. That was the one for me. That was the one. Getting him back was huge.
All right, let's shift to Tulane. Luke Cummins and going there. They've added 4 grad transfers, and all those guys have ties back to Louisiana for the most part. They lost Stephon Hudson, Amari Jones, Willie Langland to the transfer portal. To me, with the recruiting class that's coming in, taking advantage of the grad transfers, the fact that he's got a strong quarterback room, Willie Fritz, I think, is set up to take the next step with Tulane. Now, again, he's got to do it, but the state of the program to me is they look they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, the state of the program is now 6-6 is a disappointment. That's as low as it can go. The challenge is now breakthrough, and I think they've got it. Give Fritz credit. He's kept an eye. Again, I talk about self-awareness. He's had that as well when it comes to remember his offense when he first got here. It was run the ball 45 times a game.
Right.
It's not that anymore. He's changed coordinators. He lost his OC. Now it's going to be. Who did he name as his offense coordinator? Will Hall is obviously now with Southern Miss, and obviously he hired a new defensive coordinator. The name escapes me right now.
Got it all right here, my man.
But
it's George Barnett is the offensive coordinator. Chris Hampton takes over as the defensive coordinator, and I thought I had the OC here because Corey Kennedy followed Will Hall, Again, a change over there, but somebody obviously he trusts.
And I like those 4 guys coming home.
Right.
The grad transfers.
Yes.
Because, that's a good landing spot for them, and it shows that they still feel like they can continue their career and have some success, compete, and help themselves get to the next level by coming home to Tulane. Those are some Fox 8 Football Friday superstars. I remember those names, bro.
There you go. Chip Long is the new offensive coordinator.
Okay,
when you have in mind, you think it's got to go from here all the way to the front of the brain. So it took a few seconds there. I like where Tulane is, and I think that if you're a Tulane fan, you got to feel pretty good because what's the hardest position to fill in college football? What's the hardest position for Tulane to fill? Quarterback. They got 2 really good ones in that quarterback room right now. Ibieta and Pratt, and then they got a new freshman coming in as well.
Yeah. I like Pratt a lot. I think he's your 4-year guy. I think he's got to get a little stronger physically, but he took a lot of lumps as a true freshman. But I think you saw why you like him. He's got good leadership skills. He's a warrior, and they win more than they lose when he's at quarterback. I've followed Justin Ibieta since he's been in high school. When they beat Amite, I think it was his senior year. It was early in the season, and there was a game they went into triple overtime in the playoffs with something like 28 players, and they almost won. They lost that game, but nonetheless, he's a warrior as well. So don't give up on Ibieta yet. But you got a good quarterback room, and I like the line of scrimmage because I think that's where Tulane has struggled is the quality depth along the line of scrimmage. I think that's getting better.
Yep, and look, they've had guys that are coming back with a chance to get the COVID-19 to get another year. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. All right, we shift to the Pelicans. Pelicans are now 6-10 as of our program today. They had lost 8 of their last 9. They've lost 8 of their last 10 now until the win over Washington on Wednesday night. Now, look, first of all, Washington was without 9 players. Bradley Beal was incredible, 47 points. I can see why, again, that so many Pelican fans are panting at the possibility of getting a Bradley Beal. Although I will say this, he is very, very ball dominant. And I think that anytime you start looking at another player on this team, when you've got a guy like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, that you probably don't want a guy that is as ball dominant, okay? But with that said, look, if you're going to build a big 3, you need a scorer. Right. He's a guy that can come in and give you a score. That is a conversation for another time. The issue is that the same issues that plagued this team under Alvin Gentry plague this team now under Van Gundy. The lack of defense, the lack of energy, the lack of effort, and I'm talking about game in, game out. All I kept hearing was 2-week road trip. It was the most difficult road trip in the history of the organization. Zion, think about this. He's the longest tenured Pelican. When you look at the average age of this team, they're the 4th youngest team in the NBA. I'm sorry. You're 21, 22, 23 years old. I don't care if you're locked in your hotel room or not, playing video games. You can get the effort, the energy, and the defense up. I don't want to hear this was a tough road trip. You should have brought the effort. They didn't do it on the road trip. And consequently, again, they won 1 game on that road trip. Now, they come back home, and they played well against Washington. They play like they should play each and every game. The problem is they don't consistently do that. This is the same issues that, again, plague them under Gentry that's plaguing them under Van Gundy right now. I'm not saying it's early. It's only 16 games in the season, but this team has not turned the corner in terms of, again, the ability to come in night after night and be professionals. Yeah, and I think that's why you're already starting to see leaks about the Pelicans being sellers, trading 16 games into a season. They don't defend. They don't have any energy, consistent enough energy night in and night out. And they're scoring low 100s and losing games, more games than winning by scoring in the low hundreds. I mean, you should be able to win games. You get killed at 3-point line. And I cannot shake this look of a team that when another team goes on a run, how much they end up sulking, and they can't dig themselves out of the hole. They got this defeated body language. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, who is the guy to rally this team? Who is the guy that's going to rally these guys and get them going? It's been a disappointment. You'd have thought they'd been a little more competitive than what they are right now. Look, people with the playoff mindset right now probably need to press pause on that, especially if they're going to be sellers. But it has been a little. I thought it would be a little more successful to start than what it's been. Well, it's the same issue that's been going on for the last few years. Look, you got a 72-game season now. And you're not going to have the luxury of not having back-to-backs or playing because they've condensed the season, right? You cannot dig a hole for yourself like you've dug once again. Where you do it every year. Where you lose 8 of 10. Because even though, again, you're in a situation where you're only 4 games out in the Southwest, because, again, the Southwest is, but you're still 14th in the conference. That's a lot of teams to jump over to get into playoff contention. And it's an issue. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. Yes, you can. It's because you're only 16 games in, you can dig yourself out. You cannot continue to have these lulls where you're losing 8, 9 games at a time because it's hard to be able to pull out from there. With that said, you mentioned trading, possibly trading, being sellers. A lot of conversation right now about Lonzo Ball being moved, J.J. Redick being moved, even Eric Bledsoe, who came over in the trade with Milwaukee. To me, Lonzo Ball does not fit a Van Gundy system. Okay, if you're playing a Gentry system, I think he fits. He's not the type of point. He doesn't want to. He doesn't like the contact. Doesn't want to really dribble penetrate. That's not his game. When you look at J.J. Redick, look, if he's hitting, he's exactly what this team needs. They are starving for outside shooting right now. But he is a guy that could bring something for you on the open market because he's in the last year of his deal. And there are so many contenders that need scoring. Bledsoe, I always felt, was like every other piece on this team, that he's an asset that, yes, you can utilize him, but ultimately if a good trade came, you could do that. I will say this. Anyone not named Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, to me, is open to be moved, with maybe the exception of Steven Adams, because he's 27 years old, and he's a center that again, you need in a Van Gundy system. So the question is, to me, Do you allow this team to grow organically if you're David Griffin? Or are you starting to make a move now as you get to 20, 25 games to see if you can salvage the season?
I mean, if you're already getting leaks from ESPN reporters saying that they're going to be sellers, that's not coming from out of nowhere.
Right.
It sounds to me like there's a realization inside that building that they don't have the pieces that blend well together for a coach's system or whatever system on the floor. So I think the organic nature, I think we already got our answer to that. I think if they're going to truly sell, and depending on what they get in return, I don't know that they can grow organically together. You'd like this young nucleus, but you got a new coach in here, and maybe he wants a different style of player, different DNA into the team. I don't blame him for wanting a new DNA if you're not going to defend anybody, because I mean we're good at scoring points if you can't defend. So yeah, I think all those options are on the table. David Griffin, I mean, he's one of these guys. He's usually out in front of everything, but I'm very curious to see what he pulls next, what he's got up his sleeve next in terms of making this roster better, making this team better. Or is this one of those, we just talked about it with Saints, is this one of those undercover, blow it up, we'll start again next year type years that maybe...
He's got to speak up.
Yeah. Okay,
look, here's the deal. Like I said on a radio show yesterday, the only time I've seen David Griffin is when I'm watching the game and he's putting a mask on, in a commercial. This is his team. He's the guy. The buck stops with him. He has acquired and is now hoarding all these assets, first-round picks, etc. At what point do you pull the trigger? Now, I get it. Nobody's going to panic with 15 games into a season. But this team right now has no cohesion. Doesn't seem like they work. There are pieces that don't fit. So when do you make a move? Do you make a move now early? Maybe try to bring in the players that you envision can help this team take the next step? Or again, do you allow this thing to kind of play out to the All-Star game, to the All-Star break, where again you get to the trading deadline and you say to yourself, you know what? Yeah, we'd like to be competitive, but another year in the lottery is not a bad thing. Yeah.
Again, it's a great question. It's a great... Again, though, I go back. I was stunned when I saw that leaked about the Saints this early.
Right.
This
15
early.
games in.
15 games in. We're already. Let's rip this thing up. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where you go if you're the Pelicans, because this feels like to me no one expected this big of a hole this early. I mean, you'd expect some up and down, some ebb and flow, maybe a 500 team around here, but. No, I mean, no one expected to be this way.
The only thing that's helping them right now is the fact the Southwest Division, again, they're only 4 games out, okay? 4 games out. Now, that's still 4 games out, but that's the only thing that's helping them at this point. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I will say this. As out front David Griffin has been at times, again, when times are good or in the offseason, he's got to be out front more when things are bad. And things now are not well, and I think he should step out. Give the coach a vote of confidence. Let the fan base know the direction this team is going to go.
Well, look at the guy he replaced. Dell Demps was just, I mean, you didn't know he existed half the time. He was so behind the scenes and so in the shadows. I mean,
no doubt.
You got to come out in front. You got to be the face of the organization.
Exactly.
You've been that way since you've been hired. You can't run and hide when things are tough.
Can't hide now.
No.
When you lose 8 of 10, no doubt. Sean, always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sean Fazende always does a great job. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program this evening at 6 p.m., also at 10 p.m. on WLAE-TV 2. You can catch us on Pelican Sports Television on Friday nights at 9 o'clock, back on WLAE at 10 p.m., also on The Deuce, WLAE-TV 2 at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, and then back on Pelican Sports Television at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. We're always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page. Also, again, we're live streaming on YouTube right now as well. We'll be doing that for you each and every week, as well as you can check us out on all my social media platforms, as well as ericasher.com. Also, want to thank our fantastic underwriters for what they do. Remember, you can catch me on the radio on 106.1 FM. That is 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com. The podcast is available on all the major podcasting platforms. Again, special thanks to our underwriters, also the Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports, also to our WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Tommy O'Connor, Tommy Faley, and my director, William Hill. I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.